Hello,
Hello po, good morning po.
morning.
Ah, so, to formally introduce ourselves, ako po si Ibiza Perez, tas yung kumontak po sa inyo, si Micaela Larin. We're psychology students po from Mapua and we're currently in our third year. Tapos po, before anything else po, how do you want us to address po, sir?
Just by my first name, Rob.
Rob, okay po. Hello po, Rob. It's Sir Rob. It's nice meeting you po. So, inform ko lang po kayo na this session is recorded. Ayan, so okay na po ba sa inyo mag-start? Ayan, so nagbigay na po kayo nung nag-sign na po kayo sa informed consent and the interview consent, Sir Rob.
I can't remember, but I'll check.
Sige po. So, we'll start na po. So, since ask ko lang po, how long have you been practicing na po sa field?
15 years plus.
Wow, 15 years. Saan po pala po kayo nag-practice right now?
I'm with my private clinic in Mandaue
Ah,
City, here in Cebu.
wow, okay po. Ang layo po pala. Hello po. So, ayun, let's start po. For the first question po. So, how different are online therapy session compared to the traditional face-to-face therapy sessions po for
I
you?
don't consider them very different. I feel that the more basic things in a therapeutic alliance is covered by both face-to-face and virtual sessions. So I get to do many of the things that I find I'm able to do in a face-to-face session during a virtual or online or a telehealth session, as it's sometimes called. So I don't feel they're very different. Um, in fact, some would say that they are because of the limited contact, but
Yes.
I even focus on just the auditory input. So in many
Mm.
cases, I don't use the camera, such as
Okay.
what we're doing today. So for many telehealth contact or for virtual sessions, I leave out the visual input and I
Oh,
concentrate on the auditory input, the sound of our voices and what we're saying, because I find the visual input very distracting. I think
okay.
that's a kind of a personal thing
Okay
for
po.
me. So I'd rather just focus on the sound of someone's voice and what that other person is saying rather than distract myself looking at our faces.
Okay.
So I don't see it as deficient. I don't see it as a poor uh, medium for a therapeutic or a helping relationship. I think that it covers all the bases, and depending on a, a practitioner's style and preferences, I think one will find that there are multiple ways of working with a virtual session that will, in fact, address those perceived deficits.
So, nabanggit niyo po na mas gusto niyo po yung auditory. Is okay lang po ba sa inyo na ganitong may videos or do you want us to take
This
off
is
the video?
fine. This is
It's
this is
okay
all.
lang po. Okay, so right now po, are you still practicing online therapy, like purely online, or tumatanggap na rin po ba kayo ng face-to-face sessions?
It's been some time now since we've been doing what might in the educational sector be called blended
Yes,
sessions.
blended.
So there are virtual sessions. They're still available because
Okay.
I think there's no way of going back to a time when we can, tell patients or prospective clients not to avail of that service. I think
Yes.
that time is past us. For any point in the future, I believe that those virtual services will have to remain available and
Yes.
accessible to patients and to clients who choose it. So right now we're doing both of that. We're doing virtual sessions. The clinic is also receiving clients face to face for on-site services. And there are activities that are happening as blended sessions. So there are group activities, for example, or group therapy activities, support group activities that are being carried out, combining both forms of presences, a virtual presence and an offline on-site presence.
Okay. So, matanong ko lang po, what platforms do you use po? Do you utilize Zoom po always in telepsych or virtual setting?
The clinic has its own web share facility. We call it a web
Oh,
share facility or app. And the clinic has developed this in coordination with the clinic IT. So we've created our own system to basically connect with clients. Uh, it can be difficult because clients and patients, those who wish to seek consultation, might be more adept at using other popular forms of media, such as Facebook via Messenger, or as we're doing now, Zoom. But for our experience, we've seen that there might be some security issues given these platforms. If that becomes an issue for the rest of the individuals we're seeing virtually or online, we use that secure sites called WebShare. We call it WebShare, and we use that platform for, as I said, individuals who might wish to have extra security features, because
mm,
to do that they'd have to register. So they go through 3 layers of security. They register. There is, of course, a password that locks in the session and makes it inaccessible to other third-party users. We've had experiences early on when we were developing the system where other people can actually find their way into the session.
mm,
And I don't think it's an intentional thing. I think that it's because of the online traffic, because of so many things and so many people going online. It's only a matter of time before people unintentionally find themselves in a particular virtual space. So we've added extra features since then, including initial registration. For clients or patients where that's not a big issue, I meet them where they are. So if they're okay using Messenger because that's, the medium that they've been used to, then I meet them over Messenger. Of course,
okay.
that's always um, with their preference or interest
Mm,
in mind. So if they say, let's meet Messenger, and if that doesn't present them with any issues or problems, I meet them at Messenger. If they're more inclined towards using Zoom or Google Meets, I use that too. We've used so many different platforms, from Jitsi to Blue Jeans.
mm,
We've used the Discord server even to meet clients and patients. So I think the key principle is meeting them where they are, meeting them where they want to be met
mm.
online. But for those who have preferences for security or confidentiality, we would advise or encourage them to use our system, which we've designed especially for that purpose.
So it's nice po no, na you give the clients the liberty to choose, tapos you put their preferences first, because not all can navigate through new applications easily, right? Because yung application na ginawa niyo po is pang sa inyo lang po talaga. So for the second question, Ella, please.
So now that we're talking about communication na po, no? How do you build a therapeutic relationship with your client po in the online setting po?
it's much the same as I've said to your colleague. Uh, I don't consider these two ways of being with persons primarily different. And that also says something about how we build therapeutic relationships, how we make sure that we're connecting with the person across us. All the things that we've come to learn applies to building this trusting relationship between two persons, applies in the virtual realm as well. As I said, for me, it is really taking into account, for the most part, the messages that are said between us. I find so many things distracting, that I try to simplify as much as I can um, the engagement or the encounter between I and thou, as Martin Buber, the existentialist, psychologist, and philosopher would say. It's simplifying the I thou relationship. I think many things can get in the way of that. And as he said in his philosophy, it's important that we look at the quality of the encounter, the building of trust between persons, and the reality, the genuineness of the presence between me and you, between I and thou, between these two persons. He's reiterated time and time again that real reconciliation, real love, real trust uh, cannot be established by misleading ourselves to talk about media platforms, to talk about things like, should I be on cam? Should I be meeting you here? Should I be meeting you there? These are externals. These are distractions to the real encounter that's supposed to happen. Many of the things that we find in Zoom and in other virtual platforms are, in fact, distractions. I don't subscribe to the idea of many professionals who say that these are impoverished media. I don't think it's impoverished at all. I don't think there's anything lacking there at all. In face-to-face sessions, we don't smell our clients. We don't taste our clients. In face-to-face sessions, we just look at them and listen to them. And I think these virtual platforms allow us to do that. They give us the fundamentals and the basics of how to be present with another human being. What I feel is that there are a lot of things that are over the top or beyond what should be. And I feel that all these media, whether it's face to face or virtual, all these ways of being present can be overwhelmed and can be misdirected when we distract ourselves with things that do not deepen the encounter or the engagement between ourselves. So to build that trust, to build the helping relationship, to get both these persons going, you only need to be a person. That's it. Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese monk, would say that that is where it all begins. You don't have to be anyone else. You don't have to pretend like you're someone else. You can just be yourself. Being yourself allows the other person to comfortably be herself or himself in the session. And that's all that's needed. All that's needed is you and me. We don't need Zoom. We don't need any of these stuff. We just need you. I just need me. We need each other. And when we have each other, we can begin the healing process.
So, Sir Rob, so you've been leaning on the online settings from the statements that you've been saying. So, is it safe to say na you prefer, or you're more comfortable in the virtual setting when dealing with your clients rather than the traditional face to face?
Oh no, no. There are no differences. Again, I will say it. There are no differences for me seeing a person face to face, and seeing a person offline. There are no differences. So I have no preferences
Oh, so
because
it's
they're
about the same.
similar to me. I don't
Okay.
prefer one or the other. When the
Mm.
patient tells me I would want to see you virtually, I say okay, you know.
Okay.
And when they choose to bring themselves physically to the clinic, I say let's do that. So it's
Mm.
always where the client or the patient is, and where he or she wants to find himself or herself to be.
Mm, okay, I see. So you put the clients first po talaga. No? That's nice to hear. So if any, meron po bang instances where you had a problem, where you had a challenging,
Mm,
sorry po,
no,
about
I
building therapeutic relationship po, or wala po talaga?
this has never been a problem for me,
Mm,
and I believe that is because I don't mean to say that it never happens.
mm,
It's just that I don't waste my time
mm,
thinking that this is a problem or there's a breach in the therapeutic relationship, or
mm,
as some would call it, a rupture. Um, these breaches, these ruptures, they objectively happen. I mean, these problems can be encountered, but there's a lot to do with the person's construction of these situations or these events. When they happen, I don't waste my time seeing them as ruptures, as breaches, or as resistances, as challenges. I don't. I just feel like they happen. When they happen, they happen, and
mm,
I I go through them. You know. So that is why I think I've never had a difficult time establishing trust, or getting rapport going, as it's said,
mm,
getting a session started, or establishing a therapeutic foothold, or a therapeutic start, for a client and myself. No, I've never experienced that because I don't see it as that. I see it as a natural, unavoidable part of not just therapy, but all relationships. All relationships go through that. There's always bound to be a time when we're not comfortable with someone else. There's bound to be a time when there is a break in our understanding, that we can't see each other eye to eye or face to face. We don't find common ground. And that happens in all human engagements or encounters, whether that's between human and human, and uh, between humans and other creatures, other parts of nature, other parts of this world. There's always bound to be a gap in some attempts at connecting. So I don't see that as a problem. I see that as a given. I see that it happens all the time. And because it's natural for these relationships to experience these difficulties or these challenges, uh, I just let that happen, and I don't worry myself over the idea of how should I get this relationship going? How should I make him or her see me differently?
mm,
It's a waste of time. It's a total waste of time. I just rather work on what we need to work on.
yes.
And if it doesn't happen the way I envision it, uh, I just let that flux or that flow be. And I'm not the I don't want to get in there and change certain things. I just let the clinical moments pass both of us by, trusting that at some point there will be a point of understanding, or a point where we're meeting our visions and our minds.
So you mentioned po, Sir Rob, na you don't fixate on if there are possible breaches on the rapport or the therapeutic relationship or whatever. But when you first meet your client, do you focus on yun nga po, building rapport, or it just naturally comes in? How is it for you?
I think it naturally comes in.
Mm,
It's something that happens. I don't spend too much time exerting efforts on building it, as perhaps we're taught in school or in college or university, rapport building or trust building. I really think that the human beings who bring themselves to the clinic or who schedule these sessions, um, they don't need to be told that. They don't, I mean, that's why they're coming in. You know, they presented themselves to therapy. They presented themselves for the service. So I think there's already motivation there, and that motivation is enough to tide us through beginning the service and seeing that service to completion.
yes. So for the next question, Ella, please.
So with the how about with the phenomenon po where the client responds with I don't know answer or vague answers during your sessions po? How do you interpret these vague answers?
It is a part of our human experience. We don't know everything, so I don't push knowing. I feel that whatever it is you're bringing to therapy, even these stutters, even these gaps of knowledge, even these vague memories, these ambiguous feelings, that's something we can still work on. That's not nothing. That's something that I believe both these persons, the therapist and the patient or the client, can use in order to go further. So I don't push for this knowing. There are many times when I don't know what the answers are. There are many times when I don't know what to say, and I don't push myself to knowing what the answers are, and neither would I impose such a knowing on another person. So what I focus on when that happens is using the I don't know in order to help us move forward, whatever moving forward in the therapeutic hour could mean.
Okay po. So you said na you don't probe po ano. So what you do po, clarify ko lang po, you kind of redirect. You don't fixate on the topic, you just redirect the conversation. That's what you do po.
Redirecting can be a misleading term. I
Oh, okay.
don't think I redirect, because
Mhm.
redirecting would mean diverting ourselves
Mhm.
towards something else. If you know anything from what I said made you think that, I want to clarify that
Okay.
it's not redirecting or diverting ourselves from the main thing, because that's what it implies. It means that we're no longer doing therapy, or that we're no longer talking about the issue that the client or the patient has brought in for therapy for that particular session. So it's never a redirection, because I think the silence or the I don't knows um, are still part of what's going on.
Yes.
So when we pick that up, we're not redirecting ourselves from talking about from talking about the problem to talking about something else. I think when we pick up the silence, when we pick up the I don't know, when we pick up the shrug or the empty stare, when we work on those vague responses, as Michaela was referring to them earlier, we're not redirecting ourselves. We are, in fact, staying on course. I always tell myself and the other person I'm in session with to trust this flow, to trust even the blockages, even the difficulties, even the impasse, because it says something. All of these say something about where we are and where we want to be in this helping relationship. So it's not a redirection. It's not a diversion. It might be a temporary stepping back.
Okay.
So both of us might be able to find different ways, different paths towards what the client thinks is most beneficial for him or for her to tread or to follow.
Okay. I apologize po if I kind of misunderstood, pero thank you for clarifying it po. So for the next question po, it's kind of similar po. Ella, please would you?
Bale, eto na lang po. Does knowing the reason behind your client's ambiguity help in how you deal with the phenomenon po?
Can you restate that? I'm sorry, I'm on a text with someone.
Okay po. Does knowing the reason behind your client's ambiguity help in how you deal with the phenomenon?
Does knowing what?
The reason behind your client's ambiguity.
No, it helps, I think, if you get it, but I don't search for that actively. No, no. So it doesn't really matter to me. Knowing these reasons or uncovering these reasons. No, it doesn't matter. For example, there was a uh, a person seeking help yesterday, and this person said or asked me whether knowing about the background of the problem will help me understand. I certainly think it would, but I don't need it. You know, much of the trust that I have really is on the trust in trusting that what we have right now, whether that's a silence between us, if that's all we have, that tells us something about what is going on. And I don't need to be an investigator or be a detective or to be a reviewer or an auditor to do my job. No, so I don't feel like I need to know the reason behind the silence, behind the difficult responses or the vague responses. Not at all. I think that we have all that we have in the session, and that's enough.
So
Okay.
parang ano po, no, correct me if I'm wrong po, no, pero parang talagang go with the flow lang po tayo, no. Dun po sa ano, dun sa during therapy, and then parang iiwasan talaga yung putting too much pressure dun sa client po, no. Kapag po nag-end yung meeting, paano na lang po? Pa-join na lang po ulit.
Ayun. Pero patapos naman na po tayo. Ella, may question ka ba na supplementary?
Nope, last question na tayo.
Okay. So last question na po ito, Sir Rob. So with all that being said po sa sinabi niyo about how you treat or how you interpret the vague responses, what are your recommendations naman po to your co-therapists if they encounter such situation with their clients? So what can you say about it? At bakit gusto niyo i-recommend sa kanila?
I'm sure that all of us are working from our own set of beliefs and core assumptions and values. And understanding that, I really don't think that I have any sort of recommendation um, for others. I want to display and I think really highlights the fact that we all do things very differently. And most of the things that we do, in fact, are things that work for us. They work for us and our clients. So it would be presumptuous to recommend anything um, to any other mental health worker. Uh, Perhaps it's just that it's really trusting what it is that you're doing right now. Um, there is a set of beliefs called Hasidism, and well, it's a religious, spiritual sort of outlook. But Hasidism, one principle or one tenet that Hasidism has is to do what you're doing with all your hearts, with all your being, actually. And that is, I think, what we should do as therapists. So whatever it is you're doing, whether you're doing virtual sessions, whether you're establishing rapport this way or that, whether you're um, pursuing these vague responses or these ambiguous statements from your clients, like I do, or whether you have your own way of doing it, do that. Do that with all your being. Um, uh, Try not to let this distrust get in the way. Um, uh, I I trust that we are very intelligent um, beings, and part of that intelligence is not about not making mistakes ever,
Yes.
but the intelligence is in being able to reflect to ourselves um, that there are things that we can improve, because when we're wholeheartedly and when we're fully mindful of what it is we're doing, when we're right there, um, intention, will, uh, power, belief, when all of that converges in what it is we're doing, I think the outcome, the outcome can only be fruits, um, can only be positive things. So whatever it is that other therapists or other mental health workers are doing, um, trust in that. You know, if you're doing this using this particular theory or following a different set of strategies, do that do that with your whole being, and trust that at some point you will get to do that better. You will get to develop your way of working and your way of being with other people, and uh, this absolute trust you have for what you do is hopefully something that will benefit, that will benefit not just your clients or the people that you will be meeting, but humanity itself. So just that, I think, to do what you're now doing with your whole being, with your whole person.
So that's nice po, no, to be more confident on yourself, on your theoretical orientation. That's a nice ending note po, no. So thank you for Sir Rob po for agreeing to be interviewed for our thesis. So we will be emailing you our results and the paper if you'd like kapag natapos na po namin after po ng everything. And to show you our gratitude po, we would like to send you a token po if you'd like po. Maybe we can order you food po to be delivered po there. Just contact Ella na, Micaela na lang po about your details o kung ano pong gusto nyo. Yun po.
I appreciate it very much, and there's one more thing that
Okay.
I'd want, and this is for you to supply me through email or whatever your it can be the raw thing of this interview, the raw recording,
Okay.
or if you're editing this and packaging it into something else, then I think that a copy of that will be very helpful. If not for other researchers who might be interested to listen to this discussion of ours, perhaps people who are thinking of getting themselves involved in psychological
Yes.
services. So I hope that you can send a copy my way and that you will allow me and the clinic to use this video for
Yes.
promotional purposes, for psychoeducational purposes.
Yes.
Do you
Thank you.
want the link for the video or we will be transcripting this po? You want the copy of the transcript din po ba? Or same po?
Yes, sure, that would be great. I would love the transcript, the file copy of the
Okay.
recording,
Okay.
a draft or a manuscript of your thesis. All
Okay.
of that will be extremely helpful. Like I said, for other researchers looking into this topic, and
Yes.
for service users, for those who wish to think of availing psychological services to help themselves.
Okay po. We will send you the link po. We will edit it po. Tapos we'll send it. Thank you po ulit. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you
Have a
po.
good day po.